Picture this. From now on, before any major AI model in America can launch, the federal government wants a look under the hood first. That's right. An executive order signed just yesterday by President Trump means the next ChatGPT, the next Gemini, the next Claude could sit on a government desk for review before you ever type a single prompt. And here's the number that stopped me cold. This could touch models trained on more than 10 to the 26th operations, a threshold so large it covers basically every frontier system on the planet. We are talking about the most powerful AI tools ever built, suddenly facing a pre-release checkpoint that didn't exist a week ago. Now, if you're picturing some bloke in a suit reading code line by line, that's not it. Think of it more like the way a new medicine has to clear regulators before it hits the pharmacy shelf. The model gets tested, probed, and assessed for risk, and only then does it reach the public. Supporters call it common sense for technology moving faster than anyone can track. Critics call it a chokehold on innovation that could hand the lead straight to China. But both sides agree on one thing: this rewrites the rules of the entire AI industry overnight. So what exactly does this order say? Who has to comply, and why now? Let's break it all down, because the details are wilder than the headline suggests. To understand why this landed now, you have to rewind a bit. For the last few years, AI labs in America have basically operated on the honor system. A company like OpenAI or Anthropic would build a model, run its own internal safety tests, write up a report, and decide for itself when it was safe to ship. The government's role, mostly watching from the sidelines, sending strongly worded letters. That hands-off approach made the United States the undisputed leader in AI, but it also made a lot of people nervous. Because here's the thing: the same model that can write your emails can, in theory, help someone design a bioweapon or launch a massive cyber attack. And right now, the only people checking for that are the companies who profit from shipping fast. Imagine if car makers got to decide entirely on their own whether seatbelts worked. No crash testing, no regulator, nothing. That's roughly where AI safety has been sitting. Over the past year, incident after incident piled up, models leaking private data, jailbreaks that bypassed every guardrail, chatbots giving dangerous instructions. Each one chipped away at the idea that self-regulation was enough. Add in growing fear about China's rapid AI progress, and you get a White House under enormous pressure to actually do something. This executive order is the result, the moment Washington decided the honor system had run its course. But the way they've chosen to step in is far stranger than a simple safety rule. And here's where it gets interesting. So let's get into the actual machinery of this thing, because the details matter. The executive order creates what's essentially a mandatory pre-release review for the most capable AI systems. If your model crosses a certain compute threshold, that 10 to the 26th operations mark I mentioned, you're now required to notify the federal government and share the results of your safety testing before launch. Think of compute as the raw horsepower used to train a model. The more operations, the bigger and more capable the system, and the higher the stakes if it goes wrong. The order leans heavily on an agency inside the Commerce Department to run these evaluations, building on a body originally set up to study AI safety. They'll be looking at specific danger zones. Can the model help build chemical, biological, or nuclear weapons? Can it autonomously hack critical systems? Can it deceive or manipulate at scale? It's a bit like a building inspector signing off before people move in, except the building is software that millions will use within hours of launch. Now here's a detail most coverage skipped. The order doesn't actually give the government a hard veto. It mandates disclosure and review, but the exact teeth, what happens if a model fails, are left deliberately vague, to be filled in later by agencies. That ambiguity is either flexible and smart, or a loophole you could drive a truck through, depending on who you ask. And that uncertainty is exactly what's got the industry rattled. Let's make this concrete with who actually gets caught in the net. Start with the giants: OpenAI, Google DeepMind, Anthropic, Meta, xAI. Every single one of them trains models that blow past this compute threshold. So the next time OpenAI wants to release a successor to its flagship model, under this order, it can't just flip the switch and announce it on a Monday morning. It has to loop in the government first. Hand over its red team results. That's the internal testing where experts try to make the model misbehave. And wait. For a company that measures its lead over rivals in weeks, even a short delay is a genuine competitive headache. Now picture a smaller player. Say a well-funded startup raises $500 million and trains one massive frontier model to make a splash. They are suddenly subject to the same review as the trillion-dollar incumbents, but with a fraction of the legal and compliance muscle to handle it. Critics argue this quietly favors the big guys who can afford armies of lawyers while crushing the upstarts who might actually out-innovate them. And then there's the open-source angle. What happens when a company like Meta wants to release model weights for anyone to download and run? Once those weights are public, there's no recall button. You can't unring that bell. The order has to grapple with releases that, by design, can never be taken back. Each of these cases bumps into a different hard edge of the policy. But here's the twist nobody expected. Here's where the real fight breaks out, and it's not the fight you'd assume. You might think this splits neatly along party lines, but it doesn't. On one side, you've got safety advocates who have been begging for exactly this kind of oversight for years. To them, reviewing a frontier model before release is just basic sanity, the same way we don't let a new aircraft fly passengers without certification. On the other side, a chorus of venture capitalists and AI founders are absolutely furious, warning this is the moment America hands its lead to Beijing. Their argument is blunt. While United States labs wait in a government queue, Chinese labs ship freely and the gap closes. Compare the three visions and the contrast is stark. The European Union went the heavy regulation route with its AI Act, classifying systems by risk and slapping rules on each tier, and critics there complain it's already strangled local startups, with almost no homegrown frontier labs to show for it. China, meanwhile, regulates content tightly but pours state money into raw speed. America has, until now, been the Wild West, maximum freedom, maximum risk. This executive order is Washington trying to thread a needle between all three, more oversight than the old free-for-all, but supposedly lighter than Europe's rulebook. Whether that balance actually holds is anyone's guess. And there's a deeper irony almost nobody's pointing at. This same administration spent its first months tearing up the previous AI safety rules, only to now build its own. Here's what the headlines aren't telling you. So what does this actually mean for the world and for you? Start with the global chessboard. The United States produces a huge share of the world's most advanced AI, so a rule here doesn't stay here. It ripples out to every country and company that relies on American models. If a launch gets delayed in Washington, a developer in Sydney or Singapore feels it too. There's a real chance this becomes a de facto global standard. The way American safety rules often end up setting the bar everywhere. Then there's the money. The AI industry is on track to be worth over $1 trillion within a few years, and capital hates uncertainty. Investors pouring money into a startup now have to ask a brand new question. Will this model even be allowed to ship on schedule? That single question can change whether a funding round happens at all. For everyday users, the effects are subtler but real. You might wait a little longer for the next big model, but in theory, the one you get has been stress-tested against genuine catastrophic risks. It's the classic trade-off, speed versus safety, convenience versus caution. And here's the uncomfortable part. None of us actually knows yet whether government reviewers can keep pace with technology this fast. Regulators are notoriously slow. Frontier AI moves in months. If the reviewers fall behind, you get the worst of both worlds, delays that don't actually make anything safer. But here's the kicker. There's already a fight brewing over whether this order can even survive. So what should you actually watch for, and how do you make sense of this as it unfolds? Let me give you a practical checklist. First, watch the compute threshold. That 10 to the 26th number is the tripwire that decides who's covered, and if regulators lower it, suddenly far smaller models and companies get pulled in. A shifting threshold is the single biggest signal of how aggressive this will really be. Second, watch for legal challenges. Executive orders aren't laws passed by Congress. They can be challenged in court and reversed by the next president with a stroke of a pen. If you see lawsuits filed, that tells you the industry is fighting back hard. Third, watch the agencies. The order hands the real detail writing to bodies inside the Commerce Department, so the rules that actually bite will show up in dry agency documents over the coming months, not in the headline. That's where the teeth get added. Here's a tip for following any policy story like this. Ignore the press release and read who's complaining. When you see which companies lobby hardest against a rule, you learn exactly whose business model it threatens. That's the real map of winners and losers. And keep an eye on other countries' reactions. If allies move to copy this, it's becoming a global norm. If they distance themselves, America's gone it alone. Track those 4 signals: the threshold, the lawsuits, the agency rules, and the international response, and you'll understand this story better than most journalists covering it, because the next few months decide everything. So here's what this all means for you and what to watch for next. We are witnessing a genuine turning point. The moment the United States government decided it can no longer afford to let the most powerful AI on Earth ship without a look first. Whether you cheer it or fear it, the era of pure self-regulation in American AI just ended. The big takeaway is this: the central tension of the entire AI age, moving fast versus staying safe, has officially moved from boardrooms into government. And how that tension resolves over the next year will shape which models you use, how quickly you get them, and even which country leads the technology reshaping everything. My honest read: the intention is sound. Somebody really should be checking these systems before they reach billions of people. But the execution is where it lives or dies, and right now it's full of gaps that could make it either a real safeguard or pure theater. Keep your eye on that compute threshold and the first lawsuit. Those 2 things will tell you which way it's heading. This is one of the most important AI policy stories of the year, and it's moving fast, so we'll be tracking every twist as it develops. If you want to actually understand where AI is going, not just the hype, but the real shifts that affect you, follow for daily AI news, and I'll see you in the next one.